3, 2, 1, and you're on air. Silence, please, ladies and gentlemen. Sound on, lights on. Let's roll.
Hey, the last time we'd spoken about the difficulties of urban life, and we've had a lot of folks, including folks who are not our usual listeners, messaging to say, hey, very timely, very useful conversation. And so we are doubly energized to now continue the conversation. And this time, we're exploring everything that makes urban living in India feel as difficult as it does.
And it does, right?
Yeah.
As somebody who has a very solid base in a smaller town, myself, and long may it stay a smaller town, God bless it. Every time I go and visit my mom and then get back to the big noise, Bangalore, I can't help thinking that we've done something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, you even call it the crumbling capital, right?
Yeah, I call it the capital. Mia culpa.
Yeah. Well, I think it's valuable because, so here's the thing, right? I think to give you credit, you've been calling it that from a time I was like, well, it's so pretty, but you're in Cowan Park and you're passing through, how can you call it crumbling capital? I think you are good at seeing patterns as they're emerging, and also, like you said, because you have a reference point, which is, you can have a town that does everything that, or does most of the things that a large city does without any of the trouble or without most of the trouble, and so I think you've been able to see that better.
I'll tell you what Mysore, for example, doesn't do. It doesn't cater to hundreds of thousands of people working in large, enormously large offices, and that's put enormous strain on Bangalore's infrastructure. And that's the single biggest difference. Does Mysore have everything else to offer? Yes, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
It has theatre, it has plays, it has music, it has book clubs, it has wide avenues, it has tree cover, you can see the sky, there are standalone houses, people have time for each other. And they have all of this, in my slightly controversial opinion, because you aren't catering to the needs of lakhs of people who've been brought here by work.
Yeah.
Working in offices that have been built on lake beds.
Yeah. People like me, for example.
Shots of fire.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. So, and I think you've kind of cut to the heart of what the problem is. And we are going to expand on the problem a little bit, but it starts with things being too crowded. And things are too crowded because we are a third world country. These are opportunities that came our way 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and you have to respond. And the response has, by default, just because of the numbers involved, not been measured. I suppose to some degree, and other cities have the same problem. Hyderabad has the same problem, Pune has the same problem, Bombay has the same problem, right? Varying degrees, but the fundamental issue stays the same, which is it's just too crowded.
Sure.
And what does that mean? What are the problems of things being too crowded?
I mean, I'm going to start with the one that stares us all in the face, housing. I chose half a year ago to move outside of the city center, well outside of the city center. It has its attendant inconveniences, like I have to drive in an hour and a half if I want to get into town. But by golly, the fact that I have access to greenery, the fact that I can take my bicycle out and, ride it with reasonable hope that I won't be T-boned by a BMTC bus and end up as its food ornament. The fact that I have birds right outside my house. Pearls beyond price, man, honestly.
Yeah, and that housing problem also means that for the same amount, same amount of money. First of all, I think rents have gone up quite significantly. It's been, I don't even know if compounding is a word, it's been skyrocketing. And you're getting fewer and fewer viable options for that same money value.
That's right.
And your earnings aren't going up by the same sort of
factor.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And earlier, no matter what happened, you'd have something resembling green spaces in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
right? And now the jokes that we used to make, oh look, that building is called, I don't know, Wimbledon Court, or you know, or Camp David. And then now there's neither any green attendant green spaces nor the infrastructure you need for it to be called.
Yeah, well, green spaces are being cleared to make way for housing, and because it's happening. I won't say furtively, but it's happening a little at a time. There's no outcry about it, and you don't realize the green spaces are gone till they're gone.
Yeah.
And the inhabitants. Sorry, I'm going to get on my soapbox, but the inhabitants of these green spaces, right, especially the small fauna that we don't tend to see, birds, lizards, snakes, frogs, other amphibians, they can't make an outcry, they just disappear.
Absolutely.
Their spaces are getting crunched, but this isn't about that, is it? This is really, at this point, what it is like to live in an open space. But I think it's relevant because we don't realize the value that flora and fauna bring to our lives.
Right.
We don't recognize, I think, the balance that it gives you when you can hear bird song outside your window, when you can see green outside your window, when you can see the sky.
You breathe differently.
You breathe differently.
Yeah.
When you can see a sunset, I mean, not to wax lyrical really, but you breathe differently. Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
You said that nicely.
I've lived either on the ground or the first floor, and I don't remember the last time I saw a sunset.
And we have a mutual friend, young Karthikeya, who
Correct.
has chosen to live relatively high up so he can see sunsets.
Correct.
And I see the value.
And he's a mountain kid. He grew up, in the hills, and so for him, he says it's important for me to see the sun go down and know that the day is at an end.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, if I choose to work, that's different. But that shift needs to happen for me. It's a physical need for most of us that we sublimate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the fact that you said you always lived on the ground or the first floor also means, because you have taller buildings around you, that the lights are always on.
The lights are always on.
Metaphorically and physically.
Yeah. I don't know when, unless I'm paying attention, I don't know when day shifted to night.
Wow.
Right? Or like current weather, if the rain starts and so it starts to get dark at 4 o'clock, I'm confused. I'm like, oh, I thought I had a little more time to work, and I'm like, oh no, it's only 4 o'clock. It's just, there's nothing to see outside. I have to literally step outside and peer between buildings. I wish it was between trees to then see a sliver of the sky, which is very sad.
That sucks.
Yeah. So green, and the other day I saw a snail, right, in a little flower pot, and I got inordinately happy. I'm beaming at that little snail, and I'm like, this is what our lives have come to, right?
Yeah.
You see one little creature that's not, human, and suddenly you're feeling disproportionately happy just looking at it. Yeah. Yeah. Also traffic, right? Moving on from green spaces, which we can do an entire podcast episode on, right? But so the latest TomTom survey says Bangalore is the second most congested city in the world, and on average we're doing sorry, I don't know how much, but to travel 3 kilometers or something will take you 15 minutes, which we know in our bones and we know from our time planning. But that's kind of not how motorized transportation is supposed to work.
Yeah.
It's something I've forgotten. I read that and I'm like, yeah, that's par for the course. And then I was like, hold up. It's not par for the course.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it is now.
Well, for us it is, but it's not supposed to be.
It's not supposed to be. And it didn't used to be. Right? And traffic creates its own massive stressors, right? Just that low-grade stress of being in grinding, crawling, smoke spewing traffic on your commute to work. And for most people, I count myself lucky that I don't have to put up with this on a daily basis. For most people though, it's anywhere between, I'd say, 2 to 5 hours of their daily.
Including children going to school.
Including children going to school. And I remember, this decision way back when Anisha, my daughter, was a kid, that we took that school wouldn't be, anything more than about a 5-minute walk from home. And I think that decision paid dividends because she had time on her hands, right? The most precious commodity.
Yeah. Yeah, and So we are forced to make decisions with very tight variables that are completely out of our control, right? And that means that somebody else has to suffer. It's the parents spending longer amounts of time because they want to make sure that the kids' school is closer and so on, right? So that's a whole family of problems around things being too crowded. The other big one in my mind is just not having as many human connections. Yeah, so compounding the problem, of course, is this whole polarization. You're either with us or you're against us.
I'm going to just amend what you said to say deep human connections.
Mm.
I think we know more people than ever
Yeah,
before,
sure.
but we have fewer true friends than at any time in living memory, I dare say.
No, that's right. So I'd be forgiven for assuming that the number of likes that I get on a post that I put up is my connection to other human beings, and that's not true. Can I say the thing that is burning me up with embarrassment? And I'm struggling to even articulate it in my own head. But can I say that out loud to somebody, trusting that they'll hold me safely, hold the conversation safely, right? That's human connection.
Yeah, and I see the loss of human connection across various axes. The most easy, I suppose, to identify is the loss of family connection, because
Yeah.
so many people have moved. I just take Bangalore as an example, but have moved to Bangalore, as economic immigrants, if you will, and have left, family behind. And I think what ends up happening is that at some point, let's say, you move to the city as an economic immigrant, you end up meeting somebody, you end up having children. And then, because of the demands of the job for both partners, you end up getting one or both sets of parents over to live with you, some of the time or all of the time.
Yeah.
And now, just by dint of the fact that you've spent a decade or so in the big smoke, means that there's a huge value mismatch.
Yeah.
Right? Your politics have shifted, the way you look at the world has shifted, the language that you speak more comfortably has shifted.
Yeah.
It's perfectly possible that you have two partners who have different, who natively speak
Different languages, and so
So
speak
your-
it
So
totally
your
English.
lingua franca is English.
Yeah.
Right? And then the parents get upset about that, and this conversation about your children should speak
Our mother tongue.
our mother tongue.
Yeah.
Now there's two sets of mother tongues to
Yeah.
learn. Oh my
Yeah.
god! And two
Yeah.
very, very different sets of values,
Values.
which
belief
you as
systems.
partners have been able to put aside because it's just you.
Yeah.
So, I'm also seeing the paradox there that you're
Mm.
able to live a little more in harmony with each other because you don't have the extended family with you.
Yeah.
But not creating, not creating a safe space to have the extended family with you is its own stressor.
Yeah.
It's I don't know,
Yeah.
just
It's a yeah. That's a bad place to be.
it's a bad place to be.
Yeah, and I venture to say also there are more people on both sides kind of unintentionally waiting for you to fail in that
I told you
space.
so.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
version
told
of
you so.
told
Yeah,
you so.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a version of your Kannadiga, and she's I don't know, Gujarati, and never the twain shall
Shall
meet.
meet, yeah.
And so they're waiting for.
Yeah, waiting for you to fail, really. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cheerful.
Very cheerful. Yeah. The other one being specifically for women, and this kind of came up for me earlier this week in a coaching conversation, and so it's very fresh for me, which is that women who move to larger cities for work, right, you really end up losing connections because you don't belong here, right? Because the minute you step out, you never belong anywhere, because the minute you step out of your house, there's a loss of safety. If you don't know the language, you don't belong there, right? If you don't have school and college groups in the same city, you don't belong there yet, right? If you're lucky like me and you came in at a time when the city wasn't as big and impersonal as it is now, I'd still get included into the boys group of the boys who went to Germans next door or whatever, right? So that can't happen anymore, yeah. But also there is no going back, right? For women, in a very specific way, there is no going back to where you came from. Because where you came from, they're saying get married to somebody that we find for you, move into their family, integrate, have children, that's your life. And as a woman having moved for economic reasons to a larger city, because you want to use your brains, you want to use your education.
I guess economic and emotional.
Emotional is, thanks for saying that. I didn't articulate it quite that way, but yeah, it's unimaginable. It's not even like, it's not as easy as saying I'd be stifled if I move back, or it's an ending to a self that that's not acceptable, right? So you lose vital connections, you lose, and women tend to also be just, expectation is that you move grounded with your family, with your people, and that's severed,
Oh boy.
right? It's surgical and it's painful, and we don't talk about it enough. And so people like me operate on the fear that one day I'll not have this, I'll not have that, right? So you're so
By distant
petrified.
that you mean your family of origin.
No, the family you've made.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Bit of a double whammy there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Then there's other stresses, right? There's, for example, bad food, bad water, um, uh, the whole family of just ecological anxiety and grief. Um, Take your pick. AQI is up, heat is up, including in Bangalore. It's not supposed to be this hot in this month. Noise is up. There is no beauty. I mean, if you get out on the road and you look around, what's beautiful? Right? The city can be designed for it to also be aesthetic, and we don't have that.
Right. I hear what you're saying. Anisha lives in Delhi, where the air quality index has always been bad and
Yeah.
is now at a historical all-time low.
Yeah.
And I can't help thinking that some of the measures they're taking, like saying only EVs will be registered starting 2028, I think. I can't help thinking that's a band-aid on a wound that needs a trauma bandage.
Yeah. Or surgery.
My amputation.
Yeah.
But let's not go there.
Yeah.
Right. So we have alluded to air quality, we have alluded to green cover, we have alluded to the sky, we have alluded to all that earlier, and I think what we're saying really is that there is there's a pastiche of things that are causing us to feel very disconnected with our roots, and is creating I think a constant low grade anxiety. Things, for example, like the population's blood pressure
Yeah.
are at an all-time high
Yeah.
when taken,
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to put, to attribute a single cause to it. But it's this: we have no connection with our roots, or little connection with our roots. We have no connection with the natural world around us, which for someone like me, I think is the largest part of the problem. We have no new connections that we can work with.
Yeah.
When I say work, I mean work to share our lives
Yeah. Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
The air is impure. It's, well, everything's turned on its head.
We also don't have a connection with our own human bodies, right? And there is you should work on your health narrative that you get if you kind of talk to, if it's a corrective situation and you talk to a medical practitioner or anyone, and now people are like, oh, I know what I'm going to hear, so I'd rather not go talk to the doctor unless it's an emergency, right? So we're losing connection with our own physical beings, or our own physical sort of bodies, and that's just sort of our animal way of protecting ourselves. Yeah. And what's rewarded is how our brain works, right? The economic values on how your brain works, not how your body works. It's just the vehicle to move you along, right? So that's like Bhavan called it, a pastiche of everything that's going on. Let's maybe build a map of how do we react to this. So what are pressure points and what is our response pattern to this? And again, we'll clump that into families, right? And the first one, to use your word, is anesthetize.
To
Numb with alcohol, and you have a lot of experience of people saying that
I
it's
thought you were going to
no
say I
no
have a
no
lot of experience of numbing myself with alcohol.
no no
I
no
don't.
no no no. You have a lot of experience of talking to leaders who are carrying so much load that they're sort of half laughingly saying, "What else do you do but just drink a little bit more?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's alcohol and other substance abuse, a whole lot of that. I think the other, and that I think is just because you come home so tired at the end of the day, or you've been working from home, but either way, you're just so tired at the end of the day that you just need something to take your mind away, which is really the role that also social media plays.
Yeah.
Because while you do want a distraction for your mind, unfortunately, it's harder and harder to have it in long form. So you opt for something that's a quick fix, right? You
Yeah.
just scroll reels,
Yeah.
just look at whatever the new thing is that hits your screen, look at it for a few seconds, flip past it. We've gotten used to the idea of something hitting our brains every few
All the
seconds,
time.
getting that quick dopamine hit of
Yeah.
anticipation of saying what's the next read going to be.
Yeah.
And this all forms of anesthesia. What else can I think of in terms of anesthesia?
Sleep, and which is a complicated one.
Oh.
You either scroll till you sleep, right, or you oversleep because that's some people's response pattern.
What I saw on TV, I think we refer to as bed rotting.
Yeah, that. Right. It could also be just lying around and watching your phone for hours on end. Right. Or it could also be so the unintended consequences of all this is a lot of people have forgotten how to fall asleep.
I was just going
Right.
to ask you about that.
Which for me sounds like a very weird thing to hear, and I've heard it from multiple people. And at this point, I've gotten to a stage where people will say, "I'm not able to sleep," and I'm like, "Have you tried?" Odd suggestions which are not look at your phone.
Right.
But I'm like, how can you forget to go to sleep, right?
It's a skill now.
It's a skill now. The first time I heard it, I didn't function for the rest of the day sensibly. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, and then
I'll be honest, right? I have nights when I wake up at, luckily not too many of them, but the odd night where I wake up at 3 and then I can't fall asleep again till about 5, which honestly is my sweet window. And that sucks, but I do know people who lie in bed sleepless.
Yeah, and finally go to sleep at 4.
And that's regular.
That's every day. Yeah.
And guesswork here, but informed guess. I think that's just the inability to tone down the amount of stimulus you get before bed.
Yeah.
If you're on the go all the time, and on the go is usually nowadays just means calls. But if you're taking a call where the person on the other end is completely amped up because it's
11 a.m. for them,
11
they're on the
a.m. for
third
them,
coffee.
They're
Yeah.
on the third coffee.
Yeah.
And it's 10 p.m. in the night for you. How are you going to sleep? If there's raised voices, if there's excitement, if there's finger pointing, how on earth are you going to sleep?
Yeah.
You haven't been able to set yourself up for sleep.
Yeah, you're dreaming of bullet points when you do fall asleep. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cheerful.
Yeah.
Very cheerful. Okay. Right.
Yeah. And we spoke about this. We're responding to the fact that social infrastructure is crumbling by withdrawing. So the India data on loneliness is 41%. Urban Indians feel lonely.
And here's the thing, India being the kind of country it is, 41% is, I'm pretty sure, underrepresented.
Sure.
People don't like to talk about the
about it.
problems they face.
Yeah.
And so I would guess it's
It's
half that again, easy.
And it means you live with your family, you live with people, you have kids at home and you're feeling alone in all of that.
Yeah, there's a difference between alone and lonely.
Correct. Yeah. People are choosing for smaller family units, right? So they're saying that I'd rather have my own space, which I'm in control of, and fewer variables, so fewer things to manage.
Yeah.
Single person households are on the rise. Yeah.
Yeah, nuclear families are on the rise.
Yeah.
And that again, I think we can link back to what we talked about earlier, right? Which is, if you're going to bring in parents from both sides and they don't see eye to eye with each other, because you see, one of the good things that's happening, I think, is there are a lot of inter-community and inter-caste marriages happening. What that does create, though, as an unintended consequence, is a lack of common ground.
Yeah.
And you probably think, and you know what, I'd just rather live alone or with partner and children, if you have them, than complicate the mix by bringing in parents who are then going to say, what, just indulge in whataboutery. What about our language? What about this custom? Or what about that custom? It just gets too much to handle.
Absolutely.
On top of the never-ending load that people are
Mm.
carrying.
Yeah.
Workload, I mean.
Workload. Yeah. Yeah.
So smaller families, single households. Yeah,
That whole family of things. And I think we are succumbing to more and more performance pressure. Right? And it starts with, you think about actually even our generation. What do they say? Do well in your 10th, the rest will take care of itself.
I was told that.
Yeah, we're all told that. Then do well in your 12th, then finish your grad, then finish your post-grad. Now just start the first job. Before you know, you're like, 60 and you're still not bottom there, right? So,
No, the last part is not something they tell you.
no, because you have to figure that out by yourself when you get there.
No, here's my point.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to separate two different strands, right?
Yeah.
What you're told is that if you hit these milestones, everything will be all right.
Yeah.
What you're seeing is very different.
Yeah.
And so there's a dissonance in the narrative. And I don't know how much of this is willful and how much of this is just well-meaning tribe.
I also suspect for our parents' generation, boomers and all, it was true. You just get through that educational whatever, then you're set for life. Yeah, largely. Yeah. It's not at all true for us.
No.
So as a result, you've got work pressure that's unending. You can't get off the treadmill on work. You have to keep saying that promotion. Your ambition takes the shape of this designation by this age.
Can I say it's less, at least at our age, I have friends who say it isn't even about the promotion. I don't even know about stability. I have an old friend from school who got back to work after, some problems. After a considerable number of years. And I was talking to her last month at some point, and she said, I don't care about the promotion. And she quit at a fairly senior level, right? She said, I don't care about the promotion. I just want a paycheck in my bank account at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So increasingly, people don't know why, people don't understand performance metrics because they're increasingly hard to comprehend.
Correct.
Right?
There are intentionally vague metrics, I'm going to say.
Yeah. And you're the HR person, so you would know. There's also an increasing lack of understanding as to why you're laid off. And so really, it's hard to buy into the be loyal, do well, be loyal to the organization will take care of you. No, I'm sorry, this is not the Ford Motor Company from the 1930s.
No. Yeah, so I think, again, expectations in terms of what your work goals are will vary depending on what your age is. For us, it's just stability, don't come after me. For people 10 years younger, it's that much money by that much age.
I've been there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I didn't do much for me.
No. And people younger than that, it's to get to that organization with that cachet, that tagline, that name, that location, right? All of that.
Do I have names on my CV?
On my CV, right? So there are, we're kind of saying milestones on my CV as a marker of success and as a marker of I should be satisfied with this. Yeah. That's one
Sounds
problem.
not very different from retail therapy in some ways.
It's the same impulse.
Right. Having worked for McKinsey is my Birkin bag.
Should put that on a t-shirt.
Okay, done.
Yeah. A whole other family of performance pressure, which luckily I don't know much about except, anecdotally, which is your children, their academics, their extracurriculars. My child does this at this level, right? My child learns that musical instrument from that person, right? All of those are again markers of success that my child is accomplishing.
How many sports is your child in? What level do they play it at? How many instruments do they do? Are they in theatre? Do they do mock UN? Oh, for Pete's sake, man, give the kid a break.
Correct. And because it reflects on me, I thought our generation, because we went through a degree of that, did your kid go to IIT or not? I thought we'd be a little better, but also apparently not. We're just kind of not seeing, because the what counts as success is changed. I don't know if we're able to see it quite that way.
Well, it helps if you can reframe success.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah.
I'm sure you will come to that in a
Yeah.
minute.
Also, a bunch of material things. What car do you drive? How often do you change it? What watches do you have? Where do you live? The whole postcode envy thing.
I'm looking at
How
my poor
big?
old Casio. Can I talk about reverse snobbery for a second?
Okay,
I know we're off syllabus here,
go ahead.
but I'm a big believer in reverse snobbery,
Ah,
right? So any spare money that I have obviously goes into motorcycles and motorcycle travel. As anyone who knows me well knows, it's an expensive pursuit.
Yeah.
Motorcycle luggage costs as much as a scooter. And there are various forms of that. Yeah, really. But moving on. Reverse snobbery for me is incredibly empowering, right? I drive a 21-year-old Honda SUV. And I take pride in the fact that I can keep it in good running condition, touch wood. Right? So reverse snobbery. Casio watches. They will outlast the dinosaurs. Well, we don't have dinosaurs. They'll probably
We have some.
well, they'll outlast the corporate dinosaurs.
Sure.
Anyway, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I just like stuff that works, and I think reverse snobbery is a great way to go, which is to say that I don't buy into the markers of economic success that other people have. I have my own markers. It takes a slightly contrarian viewpoint to espouse that, but I love that.
And I think that's a great way to break that matrix sort of belief that we all have to flow in this direction.
It's in somebody else's economic interest if we do, right?
That, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for bringing in that reverse snobbery is an option. And what you are picking up instead of how much money am I spending is how much effort am I spending in keeping something going. Am I able to articulate what something that's a good enough product, right? That's built well, that's crafted well, works for me. What does that sound like, right? So what's the difference between to even be able to ask what's, Casio versus Patek Philippe, right? Sounds like a crazy question, but then, they won't tell time. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, can I instead of calling it Patek Philippe, can I call it Bukit Philippe?
You can call it whatever you want about, as long as those guys aren't watching that.
Who cares?
Yeah, actually, yeah. It's not like they're going, yeah,
Listen,
fair enough.
that's just epic marketing, right?
Yeah, sure.
Patek Philippe, Rolex, all these
Yeah.
Berks, I'm sorry, but really Berks, saying you need to buy into the lifestyle, you need to buy, start buying the merchandise around the brand, and then over a decade or so, if you spend enough hundreds of thousands of dollars, not even rupees, hundreds of thousands of dollars, we might invite you.
Yeah, you get on the list.
You get on the list.
That's the balmiest thing I've heard in a long time.
Jeez.
Yeah, like who buys into this?
Enough people
I know,
clearly to
I
make
know.
a viable economic model. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, getting back
Yeah,
to
getting back to performance pressure. Also, the sleep deprivation we were talking about earlier. The way people are dealing with it is by popping melatonin, which makes sense on paper, except apparently that whole market of what you buy off of Amazon is not regulated.
It's a nutraceutical. It's not regulated, not only in India but honestly in most places.
Okay.
So you don't actually know how many milligrams of, let's say, melatonin you're popping. It could vary from pill to pill, vary from brand to brand,
Right.
and it's just the wrong.
Yeah, it is.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So there's performance pressure of all kinds. I'm gonna add one more, which is weaponizing health. Right, and the more senior you are in the corporate sort of sequence of things, the more you're seen doing high rocks and a bunch of things. And I'm not going to get into details. The very exclusive gym and so on.
I think the underlying point is that when you're very senior, you can afford the chauffeurs and the nannies and the and to live next door to the office. So the infrastructure around what you consider non-essential to work is taken care of, and so you have time for all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody who's very much middle of the rung is struggling just to handle that 5-hour commute to work. Not to mention growing children and a partner who has their own needs and aging parents and God knows what.
And emails that I as a CEO have sent them at 6 in the morning, so they have to respond at 7 in the morning.
With a
when they
title
could have been
with a
working
title
out.
like please answer.
Yeah.
With a PLS.
Nice. Not. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that's multiple ways in which all of us are different, with different realities are sort of trying to respond to these stressors. The part that I think we should spend a little time on, which again the last time when we spoke about work people said they found super valuable, is to say what can we do about it, and the sort of lens for us to look at it is to say the problem cannot be solved by us. It's policy, it's governance, it's organizations, it's completely out of our control. What I can do is to reframe the problem, right? And these are slightly more complex because these are about our lives. So really these are questions of values, questions of beliefs. So these are big reframes, but
locus of control also.
Yeah.
Right? So what we've I think ended up doing is giving the outside world control over us, which is a very high external locus of control. And to reframe, you've got to bring that back to an internal locus of control. What you believe is important to you, not what other people tell you should be important.
Should be important, right? Yeah.
Ball logged back.
Ball logged back. Yeah, and I thought we put together a series of questions for ourselves to answer to whatever degree that makes sense to you given all of your realities. And the first one is, are we living right?
As a society, I believe no.
Yeah, so also answer the question for yourself, for people around you, saying, are we living right? Are we living wrong? And
what can we change?
What can be changed? The reason I thought we came to this question is because you're talking about holidays and how when people come back from holidays there is dread. I was again having this conversation with somebody where I said, listen, post-holidays blues is normal. And I was like, since when? I mean, to a degree, yes, that I wish that life continued. But the lows now are
crazy.
Are crater low lows.
Yeah, which
right.
probably means a couple of things to me, right? It probably means you're trying to pack too much into a holiday rather than just enjoying the change of scene and the change of air. You're probably coming back on the very last day. And
the snaking lines outside of every city at the end of every long weekend. You're spending 5 hours to drive outskirts, another 5 to drive to your house.
You're probably checking your mail on your way back home and knowing you'll be in the office the next day. Whereas what I really like to do is to give myself a day, even two, before I'm officially back at work. Right?
Yeah.
And luckily I don't work out of an office, so but I can just say, hey, I'm not available. For,
or till Tuesday or whatever. I've learned to always come back from a holiday from you. I've learned that you come back on a Sunday morning, so that at least you've got the rest of Sunday. And earlier I used to be like a late Sunday night sort of person. So best practices, people. To come back to the question of are we living wrong? And is the pace that we're living at, is it even human?
No. And it's not just anecdotal, right? There's enough historical evidence to clearly illuminate the point that the pace of life used to be much slower. Inside of our living memory, we know it used to be much slower. Like my Sundays used to be slower. My summer vacations in school used to be slower. You didn't have to be on all the time, and you're not meant to be on all the time. Biphasic sleep, just to take one example.
Good example. Go ahead.
Human beings used to use or indulge in biphasic sleep, which is sleeping twice during the 24-hour cycle. You can't do that anymore. So are we living in a way that our bodies and physiologies weren't cut out for? Absolutely we are. But the change has happened in a way, much like the frog, in the pot of boiling water, that we can't actually articulate the change sharply enough to want to go back. And I think for many people the question is also, yes, but go back to what? Because if the narrative in one's head is I need this kind of a bank balance and I need so many houses and so many properties in my name, your only alternative really is to work these inhuman hours.
Yeah.
And therefore the reframe I think has to be primarily in terms of what do you really need as opposed to what you think you want, and starts from there.
Say, I want to sound like Brené Brown, but repeat that. What do you really need as opposed to?
What do you really need as opposed to what you think you want?
What do you think you want? Sure.
Yeah. Needs versus wants. I mean, old economic principle. This comes down to that. Can you minimize your wants? Your needs are actually relatively few. And in that sense, modern society is sort of playing Jenga with our wants. You're constantly building higher and higher and increasingly fragile towers.
Oh. Yeah.
You're looking rather pained.
I'm very impressed. I was like, oh, that's a great way to. Yeah, I just imagined modern society playing Jenga, and I was like, that's great articulation. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's also making me think from my own perspective of what you said, which is needs versus wants, and what you think you want or what you believe you want, which is what's the compensation? What are you. There is a catch up game. What are you compensating for? And this was again something that you said, and that struck very true for me because I've also known you for many years and been friends with you for many years. I know that you don't have a very strong need to catch up.
No.
You catch yourself if you see, that thought creeping up because somebody else has put it in your head.
Maybe I should grow a long.
You should.
And
wear a
toga.
What?
Oh, toga?
I thought you were going Socrates.
No, I was thinking robe because we're Indian, right? So robe and a turban and manifest this saintly expression on my face and say, there is no need for all this worldly wealth. Whereas of course my worldly wealth is clattering around the walls inside the temple that are built for people to worship me.
Exactly. It's a great business model for sure. Yeah.
Can we get serious here?
Yeah, okay.
Can we get back to the question?
Oh, you started it.
Yeah,
But anyway. Yeah, but I think for me, I think that's relevant because I know what I'm compensating for, right? This feeling of all of this is riding on me. I had better use all the capabilities, all the gifts that I've been given, and by gifts I mean just skills that I've built, capabilities that I've created, some of which requires talent, which maybe I haven't worked hard enough for because it's just come to me, and therefore gifts. And all of this has to be used in service of others. It could be the organization when I was in my 20s, it's the family, it's various other people in my ecosystem. If I'm not serving them, then what's the point of my existence? Right? And that's conditioning. So what am I compensating for? I'm not enough.
I'm sorry, but that sounds painful.
It is. The realization, oh my god, the realization was like, it breaks your soul. Right? And then you're going to build it back together.
So you're compensating for familial expectations?
Social expectations.
Because you're a woman.
Yeah, also that.
Right? So there's this thing, I'm guessing there's this expectation that, well, if you're not going to oblige us, especially in our generation, by getting married relatively early.
And having two children.
And having two
quantities,
children.
yeah.
1.5. Whatever. Right? If you're not having kids, if you're not going to basically follow the established narrative, then you follow the established sort of divergent narrative, which is that you take care of family at large.
Yeah, you better be taking
Your resources are theirs.
Yeah, 100%. Your resources belong to everybody but you.
That sounds really charming.
It's very charming. So the catch-up game, therefore, is an emotional catch-up game. There's no financial gain in this for me, right? So that's one space of exploration I'm going to say.
Finance is layered onto that, right? If emotions play games with you and say, hey, listen, you need to do X, Y, Z, that usually manifests as you need to make more money, doesn't it?
100%, yeah, 100%. And I think I said that out loud so that if it's easy to recognize, others are able to recognize that there is that pressure on me, right? Because irrespective of gender, I think for women it's more service coded, for men it's more money coded. But there is you have to be the one to fall on the sword so that your family then is uplifted. There is one home here, one home there, one child is
So
going to
creating
MIT.
generational wealth.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So that's an expectation.
So that generational wealth question is
So,
a.
I'm sorry, before you go there, I have to tell you something, and we might differ a little bit on this, right? I get the pressure on women. There's a lot of pressure on men as well.
100%.
Okay, and it's not too dissimilar. It's not so much about okay. There's a little less pressure perhaps around getting married and having children. Although newsflash, people, you can have children without getting married. That's just biology.
Yeah.
Having said which, let me put on my professorial hat again. Look, here's the thing. For men, for men, the pressure is on a slightly different axis, and it's very clearly about you sacrifice your health,
Yeah.
your prospects of happiness,
Yeah. Health. Yeah. Yeah.
and you work at a job that perhaps worked for you 10 years ago that you have grown to absolutely abhor because it pays you a lot of money, and it
Yeah.
doesn't just pay the bills, it pays the, shall we call them, putative bills.
Yeah.
The bills that are lurking somewhere in the foreseeable
In the
future because you
future,
want
yeah.
to send your kid to MIT,
Correct.
like you
Yeah.
said, or Harvard.
Yeah.
And you're compensating for all of that, and you are getting, I've seen this with men my age, right? Late 40s onwards, I would say, is when it really hits you. Mid 40s perhaps. That your needs don't matter.
Your needs are not on the table.
Your needs are not on the table,
Yeah.
right? You are the provider.
Yeah.
And that, I'm telling you,
I have heard an increase in that word provider in recent times, used both by men who are providers within quotes and women who expect men to be providers, and they use unironically.
that's a scary bit.
And it breaks my heart every single time when I hear that. And I'm like, how can. Yeah. Yeah. So, like you said, I think different pressures and coded by you bring in the money, you do the service. And if you're a woman who's working, you do the money and the service. There's no
The double bind of
the
it.
double bind
Of the
there,
working woman.
of course, right? So that whole sequence, which is and again when you said that your no metrics of happiness for you are on the table. Yeah.
Which is where, something that you alluded to earlier comes into the picture, right? Overuse of alcohol and other substances, just anesthetizing yourself. It's
Yeah.
because you don't like the look of your life.
Yeah.
And, the one bit of advice I think I can sort of hold out is, since you're talking about reframing, I think first of all, the idea of generational wealth is inherently wrong,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
It really depends on where you start from. Generational wealth is usually starts from being inherited by you from the previous generation.
The generational matters, and it's not forward; it's backward.
Also,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then if you've inherited it, then you don't squander it. Hopefully, you
Correct.
build up the principle
Correct.
and you pass it on. Great,
Yeah.
I'm happy for you, good for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But not everybody is there.
Yeah.
And to put pressure on yourself, if you're somebody who's had relatively humble beginnings, and to then say that I need to provide for the next 2 generations, when actually it's everybody's job to provide for themselves, right? You can get a bit of a helping hand from your parents or grandparents, right? You can get something of an inheritance. Good for you. I'm happy for you. But this pressure to say that I must pass on everything, it's such an Indian thing, really. Can I just amplify on that point? I read somewhere, and I thought it was a very pithy way of stating it, that Indians die rich, but live poor.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all just save, so I can pass it on. What do you do with your life?
Yeah. It's also the building on what you said. I've heard so many people say, I want my children to, and I've heard this said a lot in Hindi, which is, घर बैठ के खाना चाहिए उनको. So they should just sit at home and eat. My child should not have the need to go out and work. What the heck is your child going to do with its time then when it grows up? So,
That's nonsense.
I know.
Without that little bit of friction in our life, we all might as well just be vegetables.
Yeah.
Cucumbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think so. Question that, which is this whole generational wealth narrative,
Yeah.
and there are people who have built up very significant numbers of, in their bank balance or in their savings and investments. But I am not too sure if that's the only way path to security and happiness. I think it's not an absolute. There are waypoints, and you can figure out what waypoint you want to get off, go on the wooded path and sit under a tree and chill out for a minute.
Absolutely. Look, everything's a trade-off, right? Now, if I want to create generational wealth, I'm trading off a bunch of things. I'm trading off my leisure activities. I'm trading off the time that I like to spend reading, the time that I like to spend writing, the time that I like to spend exercising, the time that I like to spend just sitting and daydreaming sometimes, sitting and thinking. I'm trading all these off. And maybe one thing that will help people understand that generational wealth might just be one of the more noxious ideas in recent times, I think, is to ask ourselves, if you want to create this generational wealth, what's your real cost to yourself, and what's the delta that you need to bridge, right? What's your starting point? If I'm starting from a relatively humble place and I say that I'm going to create generational wealth for the next 2 generations because my friend Andy probably inherited 2 houses in Cooktown and a factory, somewhere on the outskirts. And that's been running for 60 years. Andy said. But if what you got is, just an ordinary middle class sort of
parents,
family,
and
there's a lot to bridge. Not to say you can't.
Not to say you can't, but you fall repeatedly on that sword, and
So I'm saying it's choices, right? I'm not saying don't do it. I think ultimately here's where I'm coming to. Is to say this is choices. If that's what you want and that's what you believe gives you meaning, by all means do so. But there's enough proof in recent times, there's enough literature around this idea that people's biggest regret in the last couple of years of their lives is just not spending more time with the people they love, not spending more time doing the things they love, not spending more time for themselves. Did I get slightly heated though?
No, not at all. Never. I'm going to add another element, which is ask yourself who's on your side. Right? And
such an elemental question.
Really. So one of the things that I'm seeing happening as a trend increasingly now, especially in Bangalore, and I'm going to give Bangalore examples, which is relative to a couple of years earlier also, there's a lot more people congregating for informal things, right? There's 3-4 groups of people that I know that meet for for like singing together. There's all these point of view sort of things, which is people come together, listen to somebody's expert talk on a topic, right? So they get together with a snack and a beer, and then they're listening to this person talk. So we're valuing expertise, we're valuing depth, we're valuing complexity, and we want to spend time understanding that. People are getting together for random interests and hobbies. All these bookstores, indie bookstores, are all like doing these come together and write a letter to a stranger this Sunday, or crochet workshop. I went to some kintsugi workshop with 200 people, and they were all from a group called Bangalore Newbies, and this was a WhatsApp group of people who are new to town and they don't know where else to meet other people, and this is a platonic group in the sense that it's not meeting people for with the purpose of dating them, but just to make friends. Multiple groups like that sort of bring people together for common interests, and that's a human need that is so powerful that there are multiple people jumping up to meet that
connection, which you alluded to multiple times.
Right, and I remember when I felt most disconnected is when I started running, and then I hung around with those running people, and that then morphed into the cycling group, and then that gave rise to business that we know and love, and so on. So it has a compounding effect, and it takes your life in directions you don't know of. And so for people who are going through all of these things, you're on an excellent wicket. This is how it starts. 2-3 years down the line, it morphs into something that you wouldn't have expected, right? And to do that, instead of looking for red flags, maybe look for green flags,
Yeah.
right? And allow people to have a couple of, allow them to make a few mistakes. Not everything is only a red flag. Sometimes it's maybe like a peach flag, right? It's just a small thing that they said that is not acceptable to me.
Sometimes they just hoisted the wrong flag and said,
Oops.
oops, the wrong flag.
Bring it back down.
Yeah, bring it back down. Right?
Yeah. But the important question: who's on your side? Yeah. So think about if my values are changing, if what's expected of me, if my life trajectory, work trajectory, traffic trajectory, everything is changing. Then what's steady? What's steadying me? Yeah, and what trade-offs again do I have to do to continue to be friends with these people? When are the 5 times when they've said unforgivable things to me that I've forgiven them for? Yeah, and you said it a few days ago. It's like forgive doesn't mean forget. Right? So just like going back to some of these basics and saying how much am I willing to put up with without it getting toxic, without it getting untenable. Right now, I think there's a little bit of a binary, and maybe examine that. A lot of life happens in the grays. So, and so ask yourself, who's on your side, who's in your team, whose teams are you on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Would you like to wrap?
Sure. Historically, I think there are times of crisis that look like this, right? So there's an economic upturn, and then there are some wars, and then there are a few years before either that society collapses or morphs into something else. Those are just years in the history book or the podcast that you're listening to about history. I don't think there's enough exploration of how do the human beings work with each other to figure out meaning. Yeah, and I think that's the phase we are in. Meaning comes from meaning is created. Meaning is collectively created, and that's the phase we are in. And I think taking responsibility for creating that meaning, despite everything that the tech bros are telling you, the oligarchs are telling you, the government is telling you, is important.
Absolutely. In that sense, I really like Anirudh Kanisetti's books because his perspective on history, which is what was the regular
Joe doing.
or Jane doing,
Yeah.
as opposed to what the kings were doing. Kings are doing what kings do, which is
Correct.
march around with armies, chest thumping and drum banging and.
Put my name on that temple and
Exactly.
edicts and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
However, it's what the common person did that actually fills the pages of history books, but we don't know enough about it. We are those people, and we have to make our lives as rich as we like, as rich as we can.
And live with the bittersweet.
Oh, absolutely. Bewildered.
Correct. Yeah. Do you want to close with saying what do we mean by Bewildered for people who don't understand it?
Oh, Bewildered is this very Karnataka thing of neem leaves. So on Yugadi, which is basically the heralding of spring, right? People prepare this concoction of neem leaves, jaggery, neem leaves and jaggery, primarily, maybe
yeah.
a couple of other things, which they mash together, and everybody takes a spoon or so of it. And the idea really is to show that into every life, some rain must fall, that there's going to be the sweet and there's going to be the bitter, and really they're inseparable. Sometimes your hardest moments also yield the sweetest fruit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that proselytizing, I think I'm done.
And thank you very much for the appreciative feedback on the previous one, and hopefully for engaging with kindness towards yourself in this conversation.
What she said. Thanks very much.